afternoon. It's Wednesday, it's Grief Talk, and we are excited to be here. My name is Jennifer Tom,
And I'm Darlene Rempel.
and we're not having coffee today, we're going to have
Yep.
some water.
Healthy.
And a new month, and I am so excited because we've had comments and comments, requests, name it, of people asking us about helping children with loss. And guess what? Due to public demand, the whole month of April, we will be discussing how to help children with loss. So, if you know someone or friends who would like to get some nuggets on how to help children with loss, please share our grief talk for this month, as that's the theme. And we're excited, Darlene. And Darlene is like the expert on this. So I said, Darlene, you're doing most of the talking today because I love this. So she has a special quote prepared for us. So we'll start with a quote.
Okay, so the program is actually, there's a really good book. It's called When Children Grieve, for adults to help children deal with death, divorce, pet loss, moving, and other losses. So this is by John James and Russell Friedman. So they're the authors, and they also do the grief recovery method, which we've been talking about. So one of their things is that grief starts in childhood, and when we grieve in childhood, we always look to our parents or those people in authority, and we watch how they grieve, and that's how we learn to grieve as children. And so the things that we believe about grief, we usually teach those to our children, and as we're making a great effort not to teach those things. But and it's pretty automatic what we learn about grief, because we learn it from our parents, and we don't usually challenge those beliefs. We just keep going on with those beliefs, and so we teach them to our children. So just one nugget that we're going to be talking about, because I think a lot of misinformation about grief is that, not misinformation, but we often intellectualize grief. We don't deal with the emotions because we don't like to feel the emotions. So usually when a child comes home sad, we often say, "Oh, don't be sad. Here, let's have a cookie." Or if they've lost a pet, we're like, "Oh, don't be sad. We'll go buy you another one." And so again, we're teaching. Those are some of the things we teach, and as a society and culture, we often teach not to feel feelings. We teach to be strong, and don't cry in front of people. And so those are all things that we teach, which aren't healthy for children, or healthy for anyone for that matter. And so what we're really talking about is emotions, and how do we acknowledge our emotions about what's happening. So I love this quote, and it's that you must hear and acknowledge the emotions before you address the facts of a story. So the first part, and this is our first week
Yeah.
on helping kids. So one of the first most important things is that when our kids are sad, or when they've lost a person or a possession, the first thing we need to do is acknowledge that loss and listen to their emotions.
I love that. I love that. And I love the quote that you just shared. And before we go any further, if you have friends out there who are having their lunch and they would like to hear some value on how to help children with loss, please share our link and let them join us. And because now we're going to talk about some myths about dealing with sad emotions that confuse our children. What are the myths about dealing with sad emotions that confuse our children? I have to tell you, I love what you just said. Like when I was little, you go home and you're sad and you had a bad day. Guess what? Don't feel bad. Have a cookie. You'll feel better. So as we grow up as adults, well, how does that affect when we lose someone or something, or a life event happens? We look for something to feel better.
We do. And another interesting part is that we encourage positive emotions, but we don't encourage people to express sad emotions. So when somebody's sad, we say, "Oh, don't feel bad. Um, just do something. You don't have to feel bad." But if you look at the reverse, we never say when somebody's happy, "Oh, don't be happy." and, and so I kind of put it in perspective from the book too, that we really encourage people to be always have positive emotions, but we don't know how to deal with them when they have sad emotions.
I love that, Darlene. And that takes us to our next one about bury your feelings. Because when we say have a cookie, we're saying bury your emotions, bury your feelings. And so, how does that affect us when we bury our feelings as adults? I love what you shared, Darlene, once about, okay, first tell us what happens as an
Okay.
adult when you bury your feelings.
Okay. So that's what we've been actually talking about, grief, our backpacks, right? When we stop, when we don't acknowledge our emotions, when we don't release that emotional energy, we stuff it. And it's just like putting rocks in a backpack. We keep stuffing until it becomes so heavy that we have to, we feel weighed down, we feel isolated, we feel heavy, overwhelmed. And then one more loss just kind of puts us over the top. And so, again, when we don't express those emotions, we store them some way. We store them in our body. We store them as stress. We store them as um, we can get sick. All those things happen when we store those emotions and never release all that, especially the sad emotions, right? The anger, the ones we term negative emotions.
Yes. And if you've not seen a video that has been going around about the backpack, and thank you, Charlotte, for the comment that the music in the background didn't help to tell about to the real backpack. We're going to redo that video because it is so powerful. When we carry the backpack of events that have happened, it gets heavier and heavier, and eventually we like it's so heavy because you're carrying a backpack, and we have tools to help you unpack your backpack.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness!
Wouldn't it be nice if our kids didn't have the backpacks? If we could
Yes.
actually teach our kids how to unload their backpacks so that they're not carrying that around as they grow into adulthood. They're actually having tools that help them succeed in life rather than stuffing their emotions.
I love that. I love that. So today we want to introduce to this new program that, due to public demand, we have this new program. It will only be a 4-week program, and this program is about, it's for adults. Let's be clear, it's for adults to help children deal with death, divorce, pet loss, moving, and other losses. So we're talking about adults helping children how when they're dealing with losses. And we'll be talking about the myths, we'll be talking and replacing them. I love that we can give our friends the tools, the right tools to pass to their children. Because, darling, I love the idea of, so let's just think about this. You are going to paint this room and you're ready to paint, and I bring you the tools and I give you a hammer, nails, and something else. That, like what?
I saw.
A saw. So I'm giving you these tools, paint the room. Those are the wrong tools. Will you be able to finish painting? You'll actually not even be able to paint this room. So that's what we are doing. We want to give you the right tools to paint the room. So what right tools do we need to paint this room, darling? Help us out.
Okay, so that's the first tool that we need is what that quote says. It's about us acknowledging or realizing that grief is about emotions. And so before we deal with what's going on, we need to acknowledge, listen to and acknowledge the feelings and emotions that children, that anyone's telling us. And then once we deal with those emotions, then there's other tools we can use.
I love that, darling. And so that means we're giving you the paintbrush and the paint and the real stuff to get this room painted. We are so excited because do you want to tell us about what's the norm out there about the children grieving?
The norm is that we as adults, especially parents, we really don't want to see our kids hurt. We don't want to see them sad, and so we protect them. And so the norm is that we don't talk about grief because we want to protect our children from experiencing sad things. So sometimes we don't take them to a funeral. Sometimes when they have a loss, we just don't talk about it. Sometimes we avoid, right? Even telling our children what's going on, or when somebody dies, we use the they right they're an angel now, or whatever everything we use, so that we don't have to talk about grief, that we don't have to see our kids sad, and that's a normal reaction. We don't want to see our kids sad, but if we do not let our kids learn how to experience grief, if we don't let them have those feelings and teach them that it's okay to have those feelings, then the kids do not get the correct tools to voice their feelings, and they grow up just like we do, with always saying, oh, everything's fine, or I just have to be strong, or I will grieve alone, I'll go and cry somewhere else.
I love that. So we're excited because this program starts April the 6th for 4 weeks. Four,
Yeah.
4 weeks. And we'll be meeting every Wednesday at 6:30. So please check out the resources. If you know someone who deals with children, or you're a parent and you'd like to have the right tools to help the kids with loss, please join us. It's going to be amazing. And we are just excited because if we can give our children the tools now, we are setting them up for success in the future as adults on how to deal with loss when it happens. Thank you so much for joining us today. Do you have any last closings, Darlene? Closing comment from Darlene.
No, well, closing. I don't know. This is so important. So, and for me, my kids have grown up, so I hope I can help them. But you know what? I have grandkids now, and I see my and I think I love that my son actually probably has better parenting than I do, because when I listen to my son and his daughter, who's like 3, who's under 3, talking, you know what? She says, I'm sad about things. And my son just says, oh, you were sad, right? He just acknowledges that a little, so if a little 3-year-old can start expressing and not feeling bad about feeling sad, that's just a part of life and how we cope with life. I think that is so important that it's just exciting to have a place where we can start when kids are young and not having to not being like us and having to go back and do all the work.
Right. You're right. I love that. Thank you for the comment, Annette. That is such a good question. And I'm sure Darlene will answer this one. Having attended many funerals as a result of my husband being a pastor, we often heard parents say, question, do children belong in a funeral or a funeral? Can they attend? We hear that all the time. Thank you for that comment, Annette.
Mm-hmm.
It's huge. We hear it all the time. Or parents would say, I don't think the kids need to go to the funeral. I don't think it's a good idea. Any comments on that, Darling?
I think I think as parents, we always have to be sensitive to our kids, and it's not unique we have to be, all our kids are unique, but having kids see parents or see adults grieving well, having them see adults saying goodbye to their loved ones, having kids see adults talk about their grief is so important, because if you I truly believe if you do not take your kids to the funeral, if your kids don't have that chance to say goodbye, they're always going to wonder, right? They're always going to feel maybe it's scary, that funerals are scary, that funerals, right, are bad to feel things. So I don't know. That's my my thing is that we need to include our kids in a healthy way, and we need to model good grieving for them. And if we teach them when they're young not to go to funerals, that there's something wrong with going to funerals, they're going to carry that into their adult life.
Thank you, Darlene, for that comment. And always remember, our share, Darlene and I share about lessons learned from life and loss, and we are sharing what we've seen and what we've learned. However, parents have their own, they can make their own
They need to make
decision.
their own decisions.
However, this is what we've seen.
Mhm.
And that's why we have felt that this is an important program that's coming up about adults helping children with loss, because we see it all the time and the kids need the right tools.
Mhm.
And if the parents have the right tools, they can help the children.
Mhm.
So, let's say I love this. I'll tell a story. So, for example, let's say a parent, like an adult, was told to replace the loss or cry alone, which is a myth. And so they have the wrong tools. Guess what? They pass that to their children.
Mhm.
And so that we are here to give the right tools so that because we know loss is a normal reaction, we don't need to be alone. We need the right tools to deal with, to work through it, to work through it. So that's why we are so excited about this program, because if we can give the parents those tools, the kids will get the right tools.
Yeah.
Let's see. I love this. I love that we can share these comments and see what it is. Also important. It's also important to them to see this the person that is deceased. They wonder what death is. Oh, that's so good. Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. And when we talk about death, our friends who are watching, we're just not talking about death of a loved one. We're
Mhm.
talking about pets. We replace pets all the time. I'm one. I did it, and then after doing this work, I realized that that is a myth. Where our daughter lost a rabbit, and we replaced it with a dog. We did not give her that space to realize, to know what that loss is. However, now that I have the right tools, I'm able to pass those tools to her.
Mhm.
And that's why this program, starting in April every week, will be giving those tools so that you can pass them to the kids.
Yes.
So please check out our resources, sign up for our 4-week program, and we will see you next week, and we'll have more nuggets and sharing about the tools to help children to deal with loss. Thank you so much for having your lunch with us, and we look forward to next week. And thanks for the comments and questions. Till next week, connect with us.